The C8 Corvette, the most hated and the best Corvette ever made. Most people hate it due to its departures from history, and yet that's what makes it the best Corvette. And here I am to say that I believe that just because of its departures from its history, that it still should be considered a Corvette, not Corvair, not some other title, but a full-on Corvette. And just to preface this, I wasn't a C8 fan when I first came out too. I also didn't like it. I thought it looked hideous, the sharp jagged edges everywhere. The fact that it was, not, well, I think it was rear wheel drive, but there was, talks about it being 4-wheel drive and all that. And I just had no interest in it. But since then, since specifically the ZRX1 came out, I have come around. And I think that eventually everyone will too, right? I think this is just, again, a case of new thing coming out. People aren't used to it. They don't like it, similar to several other cars throughout history. It's not a new thing. That being said, even with the history of this car, I think fundamentally it still deserves, the title of Corvette. Solely because it's not a front-engined rear-wheel drive monster. It's still a monster, and it still fills the slot of the Corvette, even if it didn't have the same name. Because fundamentally, throughout history, the Corvette has been America's top car, America's answer to all the European Porsches and Ferraris and all that, even going back as far as like the 80s and the 70s with the C3 and the C4. And I get the appeal for the historic cars. My first car was a C4 Corvette. I get the appeal of having the front engine rear wheel drive. But I don't think that should negate it from its current position, because even the designer of the car talked about how he always wanted it to be mid-engined and just never could due to GM's, tyrannical or appalling resource management skills. So they never made it rear engine or mid-engined or even rear end. They never moved the engine. They kept it locked in, which was fine for a great many years because, they were still figuring out how to make cars handle. They were still dealing with everything, performance-wise, because it has always been the worst handling. Like, it's always been clear this is an American, almost muscle car, except the C8, because the C8, they've rebalanced it, they've retuned the whole thing starting from scratch. And not even from the basic premises of the Corvette, right, because of its mid-engine. And they just decided to make the best car. And they did. And that role of the best car, at least from America, has always been the Corvette fundamentally. Which is why I still think the Corvette C8 should still have, that idea of the C8 best car of America, or the Corvette. Because that's always been America's, star on the world stage, is the C8 Corvette, or not the C8, but the Corvette in general. And it is a role that the new C8 does better than any other Corvette in the past, right? Because in the past you would have the C4 racing against 90s Porsches, 90s or 80s Ferraris and whatnot. And they wouldn't exactly have been better, right? There's drivers, there's mods, there's all sorts of things. But never before in the whole lineup, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now 8, has there ever been just such a clear, defective, decisive, victorious car. It is just fundamentally better. Upon the ZRX1 coming out, it fundamentally destroyed lap records wherever it went. The McLaren Senna, even its rivals, best car, the Ford Mustang, whatever, That's twice the price of it. It demolished. Multi-million-dollar cars are left in its wake just from how fast it is. And even newer cars that are coming out are still having troubles competing with it. Multi or million-dollar cars are still having trouble competing with this 200,000 or less Corvette. And that has always been the position of the Corvette, and that is why I think fundamentally it still has its identity as the American Corvette.